yours. Give it a minute.
Hadn't made it down that far, huh?
Yeah. What's that?
Hadn't made it down that far, has it?
No.
Huh.
Now it's good. Good evening. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, as we gather this evening, this council thanks you for the privilege that it is to serve this community. We ask for your strength, courage, and wisdom, and we ask that you continue to bless this fine town of ours. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I'm going to call to order the July 19th meeting of the Mooresville Town Council. Gentlemen have had a chance to read our minutes from two previous meetings. First one is the executive session that was held July 5th, 2022. Need a motion to either amend or approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve minutes of the executive session.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dustin, or Craig Dustin, 5-0. Next item is the minutes from our regular scheduled meeting. Gentlemen have had a chance to read those. Need a motion to either approve or amend.
Motion to approve.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Dustin, Craig, 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the ordinance annexing property, newly acquired property into the town of Mooresville. This is a voluntary annexation. This was at the request of the homeowner. The ordinance does outline state codes that we have to go by in order to annex the property. And approve this at the first reading should we choose to. Is that correct?
This is the super voluntary.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. It is at the request of the landowner.
Yes, after a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay. This will be the first reading of Ordinance 6, 2022. Gentlemen, we have two ways to approve this. We can hold this as the first reading and do nothing, or we can vote to suspend the rules and approve it at first reading. This is a property out there off of Ferguson Road. Dave, any comments or questions on it? We have full contiguity to it, and this gives us property out onto Ferguson Road, correct?
Yeah, there will have to be some platting done.
Yes, but no, I mean just to Ferguson Road, just to the west side of Ferguson Road.
That's right.
Comments or questions?
Homeowners request this. I make a motion to suspend the rules and approve it on first reading.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Dustin Shane, 5-0. That being done, the next item would be to approve Ordinance 6, 2022, annexing the property.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 6-2022.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Dustin Shane, 5-0. Passes on first reading. Next item is tourism company. Jeff, did you want to approach? I know at our 2 meetings ago, I think you had said that you had other items or other irons that may.
Yeah. First off, I want to thank the town council for their patience with this, but I needed to check with a law firm, and I wanted to make certain that this would work out for all parties concerned. Because if we do bring the Dillinger Museum here, I absolutely want it to be a win-win. I strongly believe that history is important, and I go back to what my grandmother always told me. She was John's sister. We do not romanticize John. We do not vilify him. What he did was wrong, but he was not a killer. He was not a murderer. He was not mean-spirited or vicious. So I was thinking, how can I make this even easier on the taxpayers? I'm putting out several hundred thousands of dollars of my money to buy the museum. So that's a heavy lift for me, and I'm not asking the town taxpayers to do that. But I thought, well, what we could do is I could open up, I thought about when I was in radio and when I worked for the Pacers for 15 years, sponsorships. And I could open up various categories for the town to sell as a presenting sponsor. So it'd be the John Dillinger Public Enemies Museum presented by whatever. And I want to show you something that was an actual ad from 1934 that you may find amusing, but this was his popularity. This was an actual ad ran by Ford Motor Company after he had escaped from Little Bohemia. Thank you. And it says, "Will they catch Dillinger?" Then you open it up, and it says, "Not until they get him out of a Ford V8." And then on the back, they talked about all the features of a Ford V8. This would have been after he escaped from Little Bohemia Lodge in Wisconsin. So it was in May of 1934. Now, several months later, July 22nd, 1934, he would be dead. But it shows you what can be done. Some other categories that we might look at: banks are becoming more sophisticated to encourage young people. I'm sure you've seen the ads for Capital One, what's in your wallet? Well, during March Madness, they used Charles Barkley, Samuel Jackson, and Spike Lee, even Larry Bird, and they do some very amusing ads. So a financial institution would be another category that could be open. Lastly, not lastly, but another one would be security. Now, Brinks was around at that time. John never robbed a Brinks truck or anything, but Brinks is now into the home security and business security business, as is SoFi, Simply Safe, ADT, There are AT&T, there are all kinds of them that have money to spend, and they want to do it in a creative and imaginative way. Another one is beverages. Soft cola beverages always battle one another. So we could take one or two of these and do them as presenting partners, and the town would literally not be out any money. Now, we already have someone that we're paying, I believe, $50,000 to seek out new businesses for us. And I would see this person doing that work. I'd be happy to work with her in any way feasible, especially when it came to history or anything like that. But I will tell you, Mooresville is where I'd like to have this because I think it's the appropriate place, and I do think it's going to be a financial windfall for this town, especially for the small businesses. And again, how it will help the small businesses is I'm fine with putting a licensed merchandise in each small business, and they would have to travel around town and seek that merchandise out. So they're shopping around town. Lastly, I do want to be honest with you. There are two other cities that are vying for this. You're my first choice, and I only say that to be upfront with you. And that's really, at this point, all I can say. It's kind of in your hands whether you want it or you don't want it, and I'll leave it up to you. And I want to thank you all for your time, regardless of the vote.
Comments or questions? Jeffrey?
What exactly are you asking the town to do? Just work with you, or connect you with? I think you're speaking of Chelsea Manns. Is that correct? With redevelopment?
That Chelsea would go to these categories that I would say these are open categories that I would not object to. Automobiles, Ford's a natural because they already embraced the Dillinger history in their own museum up in Michigan. Financial institutions, banks. There are banks to this day that have plaques on the outside of their banks that say this bank was robbed by John Dillinger.
Right.
The beverages, like I say, there's all kinds of beverage wars that go on all the time.
But tonight you're not asking for tax dollars. You're asking for assistance from a consultant for the redevelopment commission, correct?
Well, yeah, but the town, I'm going to buy the museum, but after I purchase it, then it's up to the town to be able to get one or two of these to cover the cost to house it and operate it. Now, one place that I think would be a good placement for it is right across the street. It's got a great parking lot. I don't know if the jail cells are still in there. And I don't know how much the judge uses of that area, but that would be a place that the town already owns and operates. So I think that would be a good place. Now, you don't know until you ask. Marcos might think, hey, this thing's been vacant for a couple of years now. Marcos may say, you know what, we want to sponsor it and put it in there and have Marcos as the presenting sponsor and have people go to their little diner there. Maybe they want to expand their diner. But
since your last presentation, I was contacted by someone in the community. I'm not going to say in the public meeting because I don't have their permission to speak publicly yet. But they own an historical home in the town, and it's not far off the downtown, that they were talking about maybe housing it in there. But They just contacted me. I mean, I'm sure I could share that with you after the fact. It's not owned by the town, though. It's owned by someone else.
Yeah, as long as they're, like I say, I'm spending a lot of my retirement funds, and for my retirement planning to work, I need to get $2,000 a month. And so I'm more than happy to let the town get the gate and merchandise, sales, and that kind of thing. And if they want to do a snack bar, that's fine by me.
Have you talked to the, by chance, the museum in Martinsville, the Morgan County?
I have, but I never got a response back.
Okay.
And I would rather not have it there. I'd rather have it in Mooresville
Right.
or one of the other two cities I'm looking at.
I thought maybe they might be interested in working something in the north end of the county with you, but I don't know. I don't speak
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah. They didn't return calls, so, and I even called the mayor, so.
I don't see, is there any reason, I mean, we have the redevelopment commission chair here. Is there any reason he can't talk to Chelsea or Mike Dellinger as a,
I think Mike Dellinger is probably going to be better, because I'm sitting here going, if you're going redevelopment, I'm recusing myself, because I'll have to fight it on the redevelopment side, and I also have to see if using our redevelopment consultant as a business attractor is in her scope of work as well. I think Mike Dellinger, that fits his role more than Chelsea.
he wouldn't need any vote to proceed talking to Mike, would he?
I don't know. I don't
He-
think so.
We could connect you to Mike to start those conversations. He's in a similar role as Chelsea, but he's countywide. He's
That's fine.
housed here in this building too, so it's close.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm open to any suggestions you have from that standpoint, but I'd like to keep it as clean and as tidy as possible, so everybody knows what's going on, because there is going to have to be a point where we sit down and put everything on paper with the attorneys, and you like that though, right? I'm not teasing you.
I mean, I do have a question, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry?
I said I do have a question, if you don't mind. What are you going to acquire with the museum? I haven't been to it, so are you talking automobiles? How much space are you needing?
We're looking at
What would
about,
house it?
we're looking at about 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. And that would depend on whether you want a snack bar in it. That would include a merchandise stand, but 15 to 2,000 square feet would do it. Now, the wax mannequins, there are a number of them. There's, of course, John and his gang, and then there's Bonnie and Clyde, Babyface Nelson, Pretty Boy Floyd, Ma Barker, Melvin Purvis, J. Edgar Hoover, and I'll tell you, these are very well done. These mannequins were done by a professional curator out of Fort Wayne. And when you see these figures, it's going to be astounding. The one thing that I think is going to be nice, and maybe the police station's a place that could house it, if there's something that could, they have some room there. Because the real lesson from these motorized bandits is that if you do not keep your law enforcement adequately up to date, you'll get ran over. And that's what these guys did. They had better weapons, they had better automobiles, they had a communication system where the only state that really had radio transmission at that time was Pennsylvania. So they didn't do a lot of robberies in Pennsylvania, but they certainly did in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, Missouri, and I think in that little booklet I gave you, you saw all the states that they ran about. And it was because they were better outfitted than the local police.
Comments, questions? Greg? Dustin?
What do you want to do, Jeff? Do you want us to vote on it? Do you want to talk to Mike or go before redevelopment?
Well, right now, I'm not in a rush. As long as you know that I'm working with two other entities, I want to be, because this is where I live. This is probably where I'm going to end up being buried, unless the town digs me up or something. But do what you feel is best. I'll live with it. I consider all of your friends, and so I'm not going to be angry at anyone that doesn't want to do it, because I really feel this is going to happen. And I think after it happens, and I'm not saying this to make anyone angry, but I think you're really going to be kicking yourselves in the butt when it happens down the road and you see what can be done with this. Because the cities I'm talking to are talking major conventions, and they're looking at what they do in Northfield, Minnesota, with bringing in at least 100,000 people, spending $25 per person. That's an influx of $2.5 million annually. And that's the kind of money, it was like when the Redevelopment Commission didn't tell the town council about Universal's offer to do $3 to $5 million in goods, money, and services for that movie, and the town missed out on $3 to $5 million. They would have sandblasted all the downtown buildings, put all new awnings in. They were going to put in 1930s street lights. They were going to cobblestone over here by Color Works, and the road leading up to up Main. They couldn't, of course, on the state road. But these opportunities don't come up very often, especially for small towns. And as long as we present history in an accurate light, in the way that my grandma wanted it, we don't romanticize him, we don't vilify him, we're just factual, you won't hear a peep out of me. There are going to be people that say, he's terrible, he's this, he's that. And then you're going to have people that go the other way that are going to say, oh, he was a Robin Hood. But I think it's important for you to look at 1934 for Ford Motor Company, when John was public enemy #1 in June. He was named on June 22nd, public enemy #1, the first public enemy #1 in the history of this country. Now, Chicago was naming public enemies, but not nationwide. So John was the very first public enemy #1, and Ford yet still thought, hey, this is viable enough and he's popular enough that we could sell cars based off his name. And there are going to be some other movie projects that are going to be forthcoming. One that's coming forth is he's going to be a secondary feature, and it's going to be another crime figure from the 30s. But I don't know. You're the town council. You're here to do what you feel is best for the taxpayers. I respect that. I respect each and every one of you. And if you think talking to them for a while, I don't have a deadline problem yet, but coming up in about 8 weeks I will.
Jeff, could I ask you a tough question without offending you?
No, you won't offend me.
You sure? It's a tough question.
Well, we'll see. Maybe you will.
A member of this audience went online and said something to the fact, I wonder what kind of scam you are going to present tonight. How would you address someone who called what you're trying to do a scam?
Well, I would say that person's, first off, they're not very intelligent, because this is going to go through a number of attorneys. And I'm not smart enough to outwit, I know Taft law all too well. I worked with Jonathan Pollock through there. So, but I will tell you this, I don't engage in social media.
Right.
Because I think that it's today's National Enquirer, and I could probably tell you who the person is, and I won't name his name, but this is all going to be in black and white. It's not going to be like, hey, take my word for everything. It's
Right.
going to be reduced to writing, and I want it reduced to writing so everyone knows what is to be expected. So that doesn't offend me. But again, I don't engage in social media.
I'm just curious what your response was to it, because there'll probably be people that say that.
Oh.
I think you should just start talks with Mike Dellinger and see what happens. And I don't think there's a vote that's needed to do that. Anybody can do that.
No, you're functioning as a business, and that is part of the Economic Development Corporation's job, is to promote and build businesses. You and I have the luxury of knowing each other and understanding each other completely, and I've said it before, I think it's a great venture. I just don't know that it's a good venture for tax dollars. I think what he's saying is, let's look at all the avenues here in town, but let's look at possibly private. Like you said, Ford Motor Company may want to jump in there, but to make an obligation of the $2,000 a month and not knowing enough of what's going to happen, I'm nervous about it. Never been bashful about telling you that.
I didn't catch the last part, and I apologize.
That's all right.
My hearing is very poor.
I just told you that I'm still nervous about it, just like I was before, and
I appreciate
you and I've
that.
had that conversation. But what Shane's saying is absolutely right. Reaching out to Mike Dellinger is probably a good source of opportunities for you.
Okay.
Be a good starting point.
How about if we send you to talk to Mike? By all means, your other opportunities, make sure you don't shut any doors. But let's see what you can do here in Mooresville with private opportunities.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now, are you saying you would not want them, like the redevelopment, to assist in it? Is that?
Well, I'm not on the redevelopment board. No, what I'm saying is just what you asked about. Maybe the redevelopment board's contracted help contracted consultant could help you. We're saying that you have that opportunity with Mike Dellinger just by walking into his office.
Okay.
And helping you in a manner that you may say, you know what, Mooresville, I don't need you. I've got the opportunity covered myself.
Okay. All right.
Shane, is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, and I think he can help you organize too, as far as what you really need and who to talk to and things like that.
Can someone give me Mike's phone number?
I'll reach out to you, Jeff, and you and I'll sit down with Mike. How's that?
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the patience you've showed us.
Okay. I do want to acknowledge one thing. We all have a mutual friend that's going through a tough time. And Tommy, what you've been doing in visiting him while you visit your mom has been a godsend. And I just want you to know that it's being noticed and greatly appreciated. So,
Thank you.
okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
New business. That one's kind of a tough one to say, new business. Do I?
We got more on unfinished.
But am I looking at the wrong one? Oh, my gosh. I went with the one that you gave me, didn't I? I know you did, I'm sorry. 1-3 East Main Street Bid Award. Dave?
So I think we're all familiar with the building at 1 and 3 East Main that was damaged by the tornado. A month or so ago, we put out a request for bids to demolish the building. We received the one bid from Restoration Impact at the amount of $100,000 even. So I have reviewed the documents as well as staff law, and if the council so chooses, can move on it.
Are they here tonight?
They are. This is Mr. Alan Hand, the business owner.
Hi, I'm Alan Hand. I have a friend of mine with me, Art Evans. If any of you own a Dixie chopper, Art's the guy that invented it.
This fella here?
That guy right there.
That's neat.
So you have any questions for me?
What's your timeline?
What I'd like to do is get everything down and within 4 weeks, and because I think once we get everything down, we can use this alleyway to unblock the streets and continue to get the stuff out if we can get it out in 4 weeks.
Yeah, well, as your starting timeline.
Oh, starting time? That's a good question. It'd probably be at least 3 weeks from now.
What about the basement? Does that include?
That includes taking the safe, unless you want to leave it for the museum. And the safe would come out and everything down there. We agreed that we'd take part of the wall down, enough that we can open up the floor so that it drains, and then that would be filled. And I believe you want grass planted, and I think Darren said that he wanted to do the finish grade and the grass. So, any questions?
Now, Art has a reputation being able to do things faster and better. Do you want to take a shot at
He's
this?
got the fastest mower in the world. Just ask Tim the Toolman Taylor.
What's the process going to look like?
What's the what?
Process going to look like? Regarding the proximity to other buildings and how do
Okay.
you?
As you know, the distance between the insurance building and that building is about that much. So the process, I'll just give you an overview. Okay. We need fencing around it. We need to protect the sidewalk. We need to protect the roof of the insurance building. And there is a beam that's going across there. Everybody can see that.
Yeah.
That beam will be the first thing to come out of there. And then the walls will come down toward the street. And then the walls will come down away from the insurance building, and probably the last walls are going to be the ones that we have to get between this building and the next one to take those walls down.
And you think the process is going to take 4 weeks from start to finish?
You're going to have probably 100 triaxles of material to haul out of there, and so it's a lot of, there's, at least in the concrete and brick alone, there's probably 800 cubic yards, and probably almost that much in you have a lot of native lumber in there, so it's a lot of big oak. That all will come out. There'll be very little that's plastic or anything like that. So
Do you know how long the street will have to be closed? That portion?
I don't know how they would plan to do that. In other words, there will be times that we can work with one lane open, but if that's what you'd want to do, and that'd be up to the city, to the highway, to the police department. But in the beginning, both streets need to be closed.
And you don't have any idea how long that would be, do you think?
Getting that wall down into the street is at least a week and a half, I would think.
Wow, okay. So Dave, the next step, he'll be meeting with you and public safety officials to put a plan together, correct?
Yeah, I was hoping if the council awards the bid tonight, I will meet with, as well, Chief Chipman and Chief Dalton, our building inspector, and J.D. Robinson. We'd like for him to come in and sit down and have a meeting and go over these questions as well. We are more than willing to work with him as much as we can to make this process as safe.
They've been very cordial on that.
A professional services agreement would need to be entered into between him and the town as well.
So it would lay out some of the details.
There's certain contractual provisions when working with a town that has to be included in an agreement that wasn't in the contract that you provided in the bid.
Is this going to impact Old Settlers?
When is that parade?
Hopefully it won't start till after that, will you?
7th?
2 weeks.
7th of August. 7th? Till after that.
We can wait, obviously, if
That'd be my suggestion.
you can't get it down and cleaned up before then.
Art can, but I can't.
Now, will the street be like open when you're not working, or will it be closed that whole time?
That's something we need to probably talk about, but, leaving the barriers up, because there's going to be debris there and a hole, and there's a liability and all of that.
I think we'll go over that with Chief Dalton and get his expert opinion on that. Is he here?
No, he's not.
Threw that comment out and wasn't here to hear it.
My concern is just that we inform the businesses ahead of time with notice as to what's going on, and maybe form a plan that can be released to the public with a timeline, just so that the public knows when to look for alternative routes. I mean, with High Street closed.
I think there needs to be real close communication with the buildings on both sides throughout the whole process.
Yeah, I know they're very concerned about it, and they should be. I mean, have you done this? I'm not trying to
I've
insult you.
never done anything like that particular building,
But you've done demolition before?
done demolition.
What kind of equipment will you use?
What kind of equipment?
Excavator?
No explosives.
Pardon?
Mostly, we'll do it with a crane and excavators, dump trucks.
Dixie choppers.
What's that?
Dixie choppers.
Dixie choppers. Too bad we don't have a jet-powered excavator. So,
Jeff, the school starts in 2 weeks, doesn't it?
August 3rd, yeah.
And there'll be all kinds of kids in school.
We'll have to come up with an alternate plan for the school if he's working downtown.
Yeah.
the timeframe, I mean, that's, hopefully all that can be worked out in the next meeting, but it's really going to be up to you people as to when you feel comfortable.
Are there any other contents that are salvageable besides the safe in the building?
That safe isn't salvageable.
It's all,
The safe is almost 2 feet thick, and it's got 1.5-inch rebar in it.
but of course, the safe belongs to the property owner, correct?
Safe is just a bunch of concrete, basically,
Oh,
and it's 2 stories tall.
It's got a door, safe door, doesn't it?
It's got a door that's laying on the floor down there.
so it's like a vault. It's built in. Oh, okay. I was picturing a
no,
safe
there's
on
not a big
wheels.
metal safe there.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Is there anything in it?
Not anymore.
and there's
Dave
there's an old lock box there.
Anything in that?
Yeah, there's a bunch of old screws and washers.
You can have those.
took the rest, Shane.
As far as other things that are salvageable inside, I don't see anything.
Okay.
I've been in it, I don't know, now maybe 6 or 8 times.
I saw you crawling around up there and almost called the police, but
Did you?
yeah. No, I'm kidding. But I saw you up there looking at it.
David has kept an eye on it.
Going to need to limit occupancy in the adjoining buildings.
Well, either, I don't know that you limit it. Are you talking about having 0 people in there at times? Yes, I think there would be times that you would want that. But that's not, that's something we have to work out with the people.
Has anybody explained the type of businesses, you know, the insurance agent, but the other business that they...
I don't know what the other business is.
Okay, they schedule events, so like wedding receptions. So
Yeah.
their
I saw that on their sign out front, but I
Okay,
don't
so-
know how busy they are.
their business is planned ahead of time with a lot of people, you know. So that's why I'm concerned.
We would need to work around that.
As best you can.
Right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, what we have before us is to either approve or deny the bid as presented, contingent upon legal counsel working with the contractor and both parties agreeing to all requirements, stipulations, demands set forth, like you
And
said.
Dave, obviously you recommend acceptance,
I do recommend acceptance.
and you've had, what he's submitted has been reviewed by the attorney, correct? To this point, understanding that the contract's got to be written, but
With regard to the bid, I mean, my understanding was that was the lowest, most responsive and only bid, so,
I just want to make sure it met the requirements
I think we
that
need
you
to
put
have
forth.
conversation about your insurance coverage and things like that.
Okay.
contingent with a professional services agreement, it would,
Okay.
City require a bond or something,
that's part of the discussion.
part of the discussion? Sometimes.
Ordinance, I tell you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Obviously, in an ideal situation, we will award a bid, pay for, reimburse the contractor his full amount of the contract, and then attach that to the property taxes. Once the property taxes are paid, then we will receive that money back in. So on that there, I've not been part of one of these before. I don't know if we need to spend that out of a non-reverting fund or a general fund. I don't think it matters at this point in time. I think that can be decided. But just so the public knows that ideally we will receive this money back. Gentlemen, I need either a motion to table, a motion to award, or a motion to deny the bid.
Motion to move forward with this.
Accept the bid contingent upon legal counsel.
Contingent upon legal counsel working it out with the contractor.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff?
Yes, I think.
Greg Shane, 5-0. Thank you very much for your patience, and we look forward to having that building removed. Do you want
Thanks for coming in, by the way.
to meet with him, or do you have Dave?
Dave and I kind of talked about it before
Okay.
the meeting.
Okay. Sewer line bid awards.
You should have stayed here.
Hey, Dave.
So, again, a month or so ago, we put out bids for lining about 5,000 feet, almost a mile of sanitary sewer line that's taken in a great deal of stormwater during the heavy rains. I think we received four or five bids. I've reviewed them. I've sent them to legal counsel for review. The lowest bid was from Inliner Solutions for $356,850. All their paperwork was in order, so if the council would like to move on that.
Could you repeat the amount for me?
$356,850. They were the lowest, most responsible bid. They've done work for us before.
Big company.
I think they were Granite Inliner 3 years ago when they did the first project.
You also need a professional services contract.
Pardon me?
You also need a professional services contract with that. I don't believe they signed it. I didn't see where they signed a contract with them.
It wasn't in here?
I didn't see one.
Yeah, we'll probably need that then, yeah.
Do you have, is there an appropriations fund here?
This stretch of pipe runs along East Fork of White Lick Creek from Lowe's all the way to the treatment plant.
How long's that been in there?
The earliest print I found was from 1971. Didn't you, when you were on the excavator? Nicely done.
How many feet? Did you say 5,100 of all that?
Yeah, I think it's 5,100 feet, almost a mile, so.
Is it all clay?
RCP, reinforced concrete pipe. It does turn into clay on
What size is that?
15 inch, about 18 feet deep. I don't know. It's pretty cool to look at the, because,
God dang.
Maybe.
Gentlemen, in the past, we paid for this with food and beverage funds. It's an outstanding use for this. It was part of the founding councils that adopted food and beverage back in the 80s for stormwater and sanitary sewer repair. This kind of falls into both of them. The only problem is this time we got a little more aggressive on how much we decided to do, which is fine. It's a good thing. We are saving money at the plant by not treating stormwater, groundwater. It also helps IDM to see that we are trying to rectify any infiltration problems we're having. In order to do this, we will have outspent our budgeted funds from food and beverage However, we do have a surplus in the food and beverage fund, so we would have to start an additional appropriation out. My recommendation would be to additional appropriate the full bid out of there. Since it is a non-reverting fund, it would go right back into the food and beverage fund. That would be funding options on that. Comments or questions?
Well, that, isn't there manhole maintenance on that?
There's no manhole maintenance in this contract. However, there are a few manholes we'll have to have coated from the inside. It's a pretty insignificant amount, so just find a contractor to do that.
Comments? Jeffrey?
Done.
Payne?
Nope.
Greg?
Nothing.
I need a motion to accept one of, if any of the bids that were presented to us at our last meeting.
Motion to approve inline solution for $356,850 contingent upon you working with legal to make sure that work is complete for the,
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff, Greg, 5-0. Motion to start the additional appropriation out of food and beverage, or do we want to wait?
I'll make the motion to start the additional appropriation out of food and beverage. Do you want the amount?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, do you want the exact amount, or do you want to do it for an additional amount, or in case we need something
What was that
else?
number again?
356,850.
Do it for 356,852. No, I would say that we go ahead and do it for maybe 375. That'll give him the money to be able to do some of the liners if he can.
Okay, so we'll make the motion to start the additional appropriation out of food and beverage for $370,000.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Shane Dustin, 5-0. Did I miss anything else? Now?
I think you're good. Move on to this one.
Few meetings back, someone had contacted us about asking, do we recognize 100th birthdays in the town of Mooresville? And now that we have 2 ladder trucks and we can light that many candles, I think we should. The request or the question kind of caught me off guard because I didn't know why the council hadn't thought of it before. So we can take pride in it, if nothing else, that, hey, let's start something tonight. I'm going to read to you a proclamation from the town of Mooresville recognizing the 100th birthday of Rachel Gray. Whereas longevity is a life is a blessing for an individual and for the community, which benefits from the knowledge, creativity, and experience of this individual brings to all. And whereas the town of Mooresville, Indiana, recognizes with respect and admiration the contribution of senior citizens to our community, and whereas Mooresville resident Rachel Gray was born on July 21st, 1922, and will be celebrating her 100th birthday living in the same home that she and her husband purchased in 1958. And whereas Rachel Gray involved herself in the community as a co-owner of the Dog and Suds restaurant here in Mooresville, as well as being a valued employee at 2 of our locally owned businesses, retiring at the young age of 84, and she is a member of the Kappa Delta Phi sorority. And whereas, as a matriarch of her family, Rachel is a constant source of love and support for her family, and to quote him, and is a forever soft spot to land even at the age of 100. Whereas the United States has the greatest number of centenarians, I like that word, in the world, and that Rachel Gray should be honored for her 100 years on earth, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mooresville Town Council, on behalf of its employees and the citizens of Mooresville, Indiana, honor Rachel Gray for her long life, prosperity, and wish her many more. Be it proclaimed that July 21st, 2022 will be celebrated as Rachel Gray Day in the civil town of Mooresville, Indiana. Gentlemen, I need a motion to adopt this proclamation.
Motion to adopt the Rachel Gray proclamation.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
I will second that, and hopefully we can give her a round of applause after we get this vote done.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Greg Dustin, 5-0.
Rachel?
We will make sure that her family gets that. Oh, I need to sign it. Do what? Don't crinkle the paper up. Is that what you want me to say?
Diane, John knows. Better wear gloves.
Resolution 15, 2022, resolution declaring certain personal property to be surplus.
Sorry, I did not have this in front of you guys at the last meeting. You should have it now. Do you? Yes. This is just getting your permission. We are going to give this Glock 45 to Lieutenant Randy Rogers, in recognition for years of service. We've done this in the past, but he's retired. I think it was 26 years of service with the town of Mooresville. This is the least we can do. We will get it engraved with a shield and his years of service on it.
Motion to pass resolution 15, declaring certain personal property to be surplus.
Motion to approve resolution 15-2022.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Dustin, Jeff, 5-0.
Thank you.
That time of year again.
I'm back.
Put my glasses on so I can read the dang thing. You all have a packet. It's got a bunch of information in it. We won't read it all, unless you want to. So we'll go over this sheet right here real quick. Not real quick. We implemented a program called Teledoc probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it got off kind of a rocky start with some of the employees. We did a little more education, and I'm happy to say that our usage is at 76%. It's off the chart. Once they figured out how to use it, they like it. So, and it has helped our expenses. We don't have people going to the ER and prompt med for earaches and stuff that we once did. Teledoc came out with a new program this year. We're currently paying $3.18 per member. The new program is $3.80. But what it does, in addition to the program that we already have, if they cannot find a primary care physician, they can select a primary care physician through Teledoc. And I can tell you, I made an appointment last August, and I think I get in October of this year to see my new primary care physician. It is friggin' horrible. I mean, if you get sick, you can get in, but just to get in and establish, it's a pain. So I think it's something that some would embrace. I don't think all of them will want to make a change. They don't have to change. They can have their current family doctor here and also select a teledoc doctor, so kind of have both, the best of both worlds. But anyway, that's one program that I think we might want to look at. The Elect RX program, which is the Canadian pharmacy program we implemented 2 years ago, is working phenomenally. The savings from January 2021 to December was $133,000. And we got off to kind of a slow start, getting people enrolled. It was quite a job, but $133,000. This year, from January to May, so just 5 months, we're already at $103,000 savings. So if I extrapolate that out, we're probably going to be about $247,000 in savings this year. It's the ones that have enrolled are using it, like it. We have 15 people signed up, so 15 people out of 250 between employees and dependents, 15. And we saved we're going to save $247,000, almost $248,000. Those 15 people take 20 prescriptions. So it tells you how expensive those prescriptions are. I mean, I just signed a thing for one that was $28,000. It's my all new, highest one I've ever had, $28,000. I called and said, "Are you sure it's not $2,800? It's $28,000. It is what it is. So, but that was the discounted rate. So had we gone through our Caremark program, it would have been a lot more. The problem we have with that program is that there are 13 more people out of the 240-some people that we have that have not signed up. They're taking about 17 prescriptions that fall within this category. I just did some quick math. I know what those drugs are. I looked at what the cost was. Those 13 people are basically costing the town about $200,000 because they will not or have not switched the program. And the packet is, I mean, I had meetings in my office with all of them. We had group meetings, we had individual meetings, we told them what drug they were taking, and we handed them the sheet that said, here's the 800 number, you call the 800 number, it's done. Those that did it, love it. I mean, there was some people that were getting insulin, they were like, well, how's that gonna come? It comes in an insulated cooler. They ship it FedEx or UPS, it's here the next day, it's sitting there, they send you a text, tell you it's at your doorstep, it's there. So most of the drugs that we're saving on are injectables, so it's insulin, they're injectables, and they're just a lot more expensive. So anyway, I don't know how we get the other 13 to sign up because I've done pretty much all I can do to do it. So anyway, anybody's got any suggestions? I mean, I have a couple of suggestions we're going to talk about, but and I would point out that Elect RX program, it costs the employee nothing. They don't pay a copay, they don't pay a deductible, they pay zero. The town pays it all. So again, I don't know why the 13 won't do it. They haven't. So,
Dean, I use it, we use it, and it's easy.
Right.
It's easier than going to a pharmacy, and it
Right.
works.
Yeah.
They even come back and pick the box up, the cooler.
right.
You just call them, they come back, pick that up. You don't even have to take that anywhere. It's very, very simple.
It's easy, but anyway, we have some that don't want to do it. So we talked about, the insurance committee talked about some ways to make changes on that, because obviously what we've tried has not worked. So I'm going to suggest we go to the hammer method. I'll be the bad guy, or Jeff can be the bad guy. Anyway, my proposal would be that we carve the pharmacy plan out from the medical program that we have right now. and we don't have to do that tonight. Any change we would make in this would be a 1/1 effective date, because we have to do some notifications. We'd want to do it on the calendar anyway. But we would carve the pharmacy plan out. What that does is it allows us to put a separate deductible, separate co-pays, separate out-of-pocket from the very low co-pays, very low out-of-pocket, very low deductibles we have on our health plan. So that would be first. The second thing is, I would delete all the specialty drugs out of our Caremark program. There would be no Tier 4 drugs in the Caremark program going forward, because they can get those drugs through ElectRx. I don't know how else you're going to force them, because they're not one to do it. The specialty drugs are all available through ElectRx. Again, there's no cost to the employees, the dependents. It's zero. But it'll save the town another couple $100,000, maybe more than that, because there may be some more people that would go in there. So that's the drug program. And we don't have to decide on that tonight, but we would need to decide. I would think if we're going to make a change 1/1, we would want to do it no later than, say, October 1st, so that we can have meetings with, each of the departments and say, here's what's happening, here's when it's going to happen, and again, here's the ElectRx thing, and you can call them and set your drugs up. So, we got the renewal. We started back in April working on this, and when we first got it, it didn't look very good. It was about a 15% increase. There was almost $1.5 million in additional deductibles over and above the deductibles you have because of medical conditions. We started reviewing and negotiating, and let me think about how I can say that. Can't say that. Anyway, we eliminated some of those issues. The increase is a 5% increase. The trend is 9 or 10 on groups that I'm renewing. And we only have 2 firm lasers for a total of $175,000. We have 3, one of the lasers is for somebody that's had a laser for 4 or 5 years, and they've never even been close to the laser amount. So I'm really not even concerned about that one. The other one could, not sure. I know the condition could, I'll just say could. There's 3 conditional lasers, and Tommy and I were talking yesterday when I dropped my blades off, and he says, I've never heard of conditional, and I said, I haven't either. It's the first time they've ever done it. What has happened is we have 3 people that have some conditions that they haven't sought treatment for. They may not seek treatment for, but if they do, then those additional lasers, deductible, will kick in. Again, I reviewed those. One of them might. I don't think the other 2 will. And actually, yeah, I don't think they will. If they do, it's an additional $285,000 in lasers. But in talking with the underwriter, that's why the rate went from 15% to 5%. She doesn't think that's going to happen. You look at item 13, the administrative fees, which is what the TPA service charges to process the claims, do claims review, just all the things that they do, is going up $1,600 annually. The IMED, which is the eye program that we have, there's no increase at all. The reinsurance costs are going from $775 to $812. The initial quote was $890, so it's come down. Maximum exposure, which is kind of the number that we use, that's the worst case scenario, that's the most the town would be out, is going from 3.231 to 3.269. If you add in the lasers that we had last year was horrible. We had a lot of people that had a bunch of conditions, and they had extra, beyond $50,000 deductible, they had more. It was 3.7, and this year would be 3.44 with those 2 lasers. So Item 18, we looked at some ways as a committee that we could potentially reduce some costs. One of the items thrown out was you carve out spouses. A lot of the employers, if you work at, say as an example, you work at the school, your spouse has he or she has insurance there, and then the other spouse works for the town. The one that works for the town would get town insurance, the other one would get school insurance. That's a way to do that. The insurance committee didn't like that, so I'm just, it was something we reviewed. They didn't want to do that. There was an audit procedure to make sure that we only have eligible dependents on our plan. At first, it sounded pretty interesting. It was about $2,500, $2,600. I went back and I looked, and we had 2 people that we caught 2 years ago, was divorced, and they never told us that they should be off the plan. Luckily, they hadn't used the insurance except for $40, so we didn't even go after them. It was like, so, but nobody told us that they were divorced and that the spouse should have been off the plan. So I don't think that that's an issue now, and we actually, working with the clerk's office, we're checking the dependents. We also had a couple dependents that when they turned 26 should have come off, and they didn't come off for a month or 2. So now we've got a database that's got those dates of birth on there, and Debbie's reaching out and saying, because there is some reasons that somebody could stay on beyond 26, handicap and some other issues. But so we're doing I think a better job of catching those. So I don't think we would catch enough to warrant the $2,600. So, but we did talk about that. And the last thing was the cost of the plan. It's the best deal going. If my wife ever didn't get reelected, she's going to come apply for a job here because, it's $1 a year for a single, it's $22.50 a pay period for family coverage. And that's not just the health insurance. I mean, that's all of the benefits that they get. That's free dental, that's free vision, that's free disability insurance. It's free $50,000 of life insurance. I mean, nobody even does that anymore. So basically, $22.50 a pay period, it's almost free. That's not been changed. I don't know when that went into effect. I can tell you when Danny Allen started, it was $22.50, and so I'm going to say 25 years, maybe longer. So it's never been looked at. That has no effect on what I'm doing. I'm just saying that that's one way that you can shift some expense if they don't want to help themselves. That's one way you can do it and collect some dollars. It's very reasonable. So my recommendations are to go with, it's Litchfield, which is the carrier with the reinsurance carrier. It says option 1, but they only gave us 1 because they gave us a $50,000 and a $60,000, and the $60,000 it was like $200 less. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So Litchfield, option 1. I would recommend changing to Teladoc to give them the option to have the primary care physician if that's what they want to do. They don't have to. I would continue to review the pharmacy plan, meet with the insurance committee probably in August, maybe once in August or September, so that we know what we want to do for 1/1. Again, my recommendation is that we carve it out and do away with the tier 4 drugs, the specialty drugs, and do that for a 1/1/2023 implementation on the pharmacy part. And then we can go through all of this. You can read it. It's pretty boring stuff. I mean, the ElectRx stuff is pretty good because it shows you by month, and you can see the increase as we got farther into the year where we had more people, because we had some people that were reluctant to sign up. And then I went back and took a second run at them and said, I don't understand this. There was questions. Your wife had a million questions, and that was good. I mean, it was good. So some others had questions.
Can we ask you questions now, or?
Mm-hmm. There's the form that we did for the elector.
I'm gonna.
Do it. It wasn't me this time.
That's the form that we did for the ElectRx.
I have a bunch of heart claims here in a minute.
Yeah, really.
So on number 20, where you talk about the 2250 a pay period, it was kind of one of your last points there. So I'm assuming that if you increase that, you'd have to do it for all employees, not just the ones who are refusing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'd be across the board.
What are the objections to the mail-in, the ElectRx? Do they think they're not going to get the right drug, or it's like a generic, or?
Don't want to have it left at their doorstep. Afraid it's not the same drug. How can it be that much less? I mean, in that packet is the ElectRx thing. It's about a 45% savings on the drugs that are being.
It's literally no reduction in quality, service, the efficacy of the drug. It's the same brands, like Lilly Insulin's Lilly Insulin, correct?
Right.
So there's absolutely no
There's really no reason, and especially the fact that it's at zero cost to the employee. I mean, they pay a copay and an out-of-pocket currently under the Caremark program, but our deductibles and copays and out-of-pockets are so low, and they've been that way. I mean, I will say the council in the past is, when I've suggested, I mean, we did increase them a few years ago, but minor. And when I look at other health plans that we have for other employers, I mean, I say, this isn't a Cadillac plan. This is a Rolls-Royce plan. I mean, you look at, if you work for the city of Martinsville County, you're paying about $700 or $800 a month. $3,500 family deductible. There's just no comparison, and they don't have the other benefits. They don't have the life insurance, the high limits, and all that. So I commend you guys. I mean, I know the family that I talk to that have used the health insurance are grateful for it. There are some that just don't get it. You're a single guy, and nothing's going to happen. But we've had some families that have used it. I mean, I've had people come in and say, my kid has this, how much is it going to cost me? And I go, $500. What? $500.
I think it's foolish to say nothing's going to happen, because we had a family friend die at age 16 with cancer, so you don't know.
You have no idea. Yeah. So anyway, that's my recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
When he talks about carving them out and taking the tier 4 out, what he's saying is we're going to get it from another provider.
Yes, yeah.
You're still going to be able to get them. I want to make sure that that's crystal clear, because I'm afraid people are hearing, oh my God, they're doing away with it.
And if they're, and I verified this today when I have the email, let's just say that a new drug comes out, because they come out all the time. That's why that $28,000 was one I hadn't even heard of. But let's just say that drug comes out, doctor prescribes it, they call ElectRx, and it isn't available. It's so new that they don't have it. They're going to call and say, why is that drug not available? They're probably going to call me, hopefully. And then I'm going to call and say, well, we'll get that one overridden through our Caremark program until such time that it is available in ElectRx. I doubt that would happen, but I asked that question because I said, if the doctor says you need this drug and ElectRx doesn't have it, what are we going to do? And Trustmark said, I've done that before. You just make the call and override it, and the drug shows up. That'll be 45% more expensive, but there would be no disruption. At best, it might be a day, because they're pretty quick. I mean, as soon as I call and say, yeah, override it, ship it, boom. And I don't do that. I call the insurance committee and say, this is what we're doing, because I don't want to be on the hook for $15,000 drug or a $20,000 drug. But it works. I did ask that question because that is a concern. I mean, what if it's not available? We'll make it available. through the current program, Caremark. That answer that?
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than our medical plan. We have a PPO for our
Right.
medical plan.
Right.
If you go outside of that, it costs more.
Yes.
So that's, what we're doing is we're just saying, we're just changing.
Right.
Instead of CVS, we're now using them on the tier 4, Elector X.
Right.
We're not taking anything away.
So what would happen is when we take those, they're almost all tier 4. I don't think there's any tier 3, but they're specialty drugs. And I've got the list. When we discontinue those, the employee's going to have to make the decision, do they want to, one, they can continue to get them. They're going to pay full price, so I don't think anybody's going to be doing that because they're really expensive. Or they're going to be calling me going, what's that 800 number so I can sign up for the ElectRx program? And I know, it's too much money to I mean, we let it go another year. We did another round of education. I heard the same excuses again. They're not going to change with the carrot. We tried the carrot. This is the stick. Actually, this is the hammer. So.
I don't even see it as that. It just makes sense for taxpayers who's providing health care for you.
Well, and keeping the cost of the insurance pretty low. I mean, real low, actually. So, thoughts, questions?
We can make a decision on the RX tonight if we want to. You can duty and task us to the insurance board to come up with a more solid plan and a plan of attack, and we can bring that back later. But tonight we do need to either renew or drop insurance.
Medic in the house.
I'll be going on vacation.
I just want to ask one more question.
Okay.
So it's abundantly clear.
Yeah.
Because people will hammer me. We aren't taking away any coverage. We're just shifting it from one prescription program to a cheaper one. That's all you're doing.
And the difference in the ElectRx is, as some of you are aware, the town has approved that program, but each individual employee and spouse has to sign up for that. I can't do it as a, it's not really a group coverage. It is a program that's available. And actually it came to us through Trustmark, who does the Caremark program, our current program. So they said, here's a way to save on these very expensive drugs. So yeah, they're going to have the availability, and actually at no cost to them, because we charge no copay, we charge no deductible, we charge nothing. The drugs are shipped right to their house. Like you said, they ship. I thought they used to have to take the box and take it back to like a UPS store, but I think now you just set it outside and pick it up.
They just pick it up.
Yeah. So that was one of the arguments, was you used to have to take it someplace. I'm like, well, you don't even have to do that now.
So what those people are doing are going to the pharmacy and getting it.
Yeah.
Instead of having it shipped.
Right. Yeah.
At the school, we're on Optum RX and easy.
Right.
It comes in the mail.
Right.
Does the insurance committee have a recommendation? I don't want to overstep the insurance committee if they already have do we have to wait for you to have a recommendation, or?
We don't have to. That's what I'm saying. We don't have to do anything on this tonight, or we can on the RX part of it.
Okay.
The main thing before us tonight is the renewal. And I'm going to say that the insurance board's recommendation is obviously to go with the low bid, which is a renewal with Litchfield and Cigna as our group.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, if we say, hey, we definitely want you guys to hammer something out with this, we can do that. Or if you say you want us to bring back a proposal, we can do that.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think you might as well let them know now. It gives them that much more time to prepare to order the, to maybe contact you, understand the process, it just gives them that much more time.
Oh, they know the process. But I'm happy to do it again.
So then, at that point in time, we would need a motion to accept the renewal with Litchfield and to make the changes on the, what is it, specialty drugs?
Specialty drugs. I think we ought to come back because I want to make sure that I get the wording correct on that it is specialty and it's not tier 4.
Okay.
So, much as I'd love you to do it tonight, I mean, I think we're all in agreement that that's what we're going to do. I just couldn't get it done. I couldn't, it has to go to Trustmark, their legal team, attorneys.
Darn attorneys.
They'll draft it. So it's legalese and meets all, and I couldn't get that done before tonight. So my recommendation would be, let's meet again in August, and it'll be pretty quick. Yeah. If that's okay with you guys. Because it really doesn't have an effect on the, it'll have a minor effect on the reinsurance, really minor. It's really going to save the town money. It's just shifting. We're already paying those drug costs to Caremark. We're just paying 45% more. So, yeah, that would be my recommendation. That's okay.
Heard it.
Do you want a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to renew the insurance with Litchfield and at option 1, including allowing Dean to provide the details on the changes for this prescription program to be presented when? Second meeting in August? First meeting in August?
Second.
Maybe.
It would be hard to turn around if
Okay.
you need us to review it.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
I'll try.
You want to do second meeting?
I think I can have it for the second.
Okay, well, if something changes, just
Yeah.
let us know. Pending for the second meeting in August, and there's a
Wife
motion.
might be on vacation.
Motion been made, do I have a second? Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Shane, Greg, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll be back.
Thanks for the warning. Thanks for the warning. Steve, Telemagine, you are up. Telemagine invoices. This a series of unfortunate timing and events. Apparently, somewhere along the line, we did not pay you for services that you rendered to us in May. We paid you for June, but we didn't pay you for May. And I apologize for that. I couldn't see those. They are on the docket for this evening. Before our last meeting, and looking at the invoices, there were a couple of notes on the invoices where department heads were, or members of departments were questioning some of the fees and charges. I asked that they hold those because the due date was on those. Excuse me. The due date on those invoices were 7/21, and I knew that if we held them until this meeting, that they still wouldn't be past due. I think we can go through these in whatever order you want to. I think you've been made aware of them. The first one, the invoice 7044, there were some questions there. Our fire chief, this was work done at the fire department. I think our fire chief, was concerned because the job wasn't actually completed at the time that they had received us, but has since been done, is what he explained to me. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, but I think his concern was, the vendor had shipped something that was wrong and couldn't get it put in, or was a wrong item. So that one has been taken care of.
Yeah, that should be good.
No, wait a minute, we didn't receive that bill until after the work was completed, correct? You didn't submit a bill before the work was
No,
completed?
no.
And that's not what I was told by our department head. He said that was his concern, was we had the bill before the work was completed.
I brought my invoice person with me too, maybe we can figure it out.
But it was something about the switch was just wrong.
Yeah, the initial switch didn't match the requirements of the older connection. So what we had to do was send the first switch back and get another switch. So that took a little bit of time. But yeah, everything, I talked to Matt, I don't know if Matt's here or not.
When did Matt say the work was completed?
The conversation was this afternoon. I don't know. He said the work had been completed from the last meeting to this meeting, sometime in between.
Yeah, we actually finished up replacing the first switch with the second switch, and I believe June 28th is when we actually turned it up. So, of course, you want to watch it, after that, make sure it's going to work and all that, so.
He had no qualms with it at this point. He said he was more than ready to sign off on it. But prior to our last meeting, there was a note on it that he was not ready to sign off on it. Next one was invoice 7046. That was a project on the iPad. I think that one there, you said you wanted to pull that one? You asked Amanda to pull that one, is that correct?
Yes.
Which invoice is this?
The 250, the invoice number 7046.
Yeah, we were called, I don't know if you know the details behind it, but we were called out several times. And, attempted to help out, but, and there's some other things that went along with that particular situation, and it's the reason I felt as a goodwill gesture to do that, so.
But I think that is in the docket, so I don't know how we can pull that off the docket if that's what he wants to do. Say what?
You can pull it if he requests it, yeah.
If he requests it, yes. The other one was 7048. That's kind of a mismatch of all kinds of stuff. And I know that the second item on there, I know you and I had discussed that. That was with the park department and them needing to get into their switches or
Yes,
something. And I know that we had discussed that one.
yes.
The backup appliances, I'm assuming that has something to do with our storage on a monthly basis on the.
Yeah. Actually, what I'd like to do, we've had some questions on, there are also the legal charges in here, in this particular invoice, for the legal searching. And what I would like to do is to request to pull invoice 7044, because I want to clean that up. I want to separate out the legal charges from the mishmash of other charges that we have. And I'll replace that with another invoice or two.
Now, 744 was the work at the fire department. Are you talking 748?
7048, yeah, is what I'd like to pull. All the rest of the invoices should be okay.
Okay. Well, that was only three that there were. But you want to pull this one also, the 7048, and resubmit it. Is that what you're saying,
Yes,
Andy?
but not the 7044. That's the fire department one.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That was good.
And then 7059 and 6981.
Those were being paid. Those were not questioned.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Matt did ask one thing on the, he did say on the fire department that he's still struggling with something, that the Barracuda is blocking something, but he said you were aware of that and was still
Yeah.
working on that.
He and I talked about it, and we decided to go ahead and whitelist people that he absolutely needed to make sure that the email landed on their system. We currently whitelist probably 45 to 50 entities for the police department, and that works out really good for them. But for some reason, Matt's continues to have some of those issues, which is fine. But once we whitelist somebody, guess what? The next time it happens, they're not going to be whitelisted. So as time goes on and we whitelist the vendors that he really needs, then we won't have to loosen up the restrictions for everybody else. Because no one else is really asking or having those issues. So, but it's entirely possible, yes.
We're having some issues. State Board of Accounts email is coming through to Debbie Montz.
Yeah.
She's not receiving those.
Okay, so we need to whitelist those?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you whitelist, because I know you whitelist the SBOA emails for me, does that not apply for anyone that gets an SBOA or a .in.gov?
No, not if it's strictly to you.
All right.
Yeah. So, complicated world out there right now with the security and everything.
Well, and you and I have had that conversation about how we need to be safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know there was one ongoing issue that we needed to check into, or maybe this council needs to make a decision on, loading the contract that we signed with Banning to do the cemetery. It's time for them to put it on our server.
I think I copied you on some of my
Yeah,
comments.
you did, but I thought we'd just share this, and this way it can be a council decision on allowing or not allowing them. I mean, that's a project that we've spent $60,000 on to try to get done, and I think we're in the home stretch of it, aren't we? So.
Yeah. My issue that I think I raised in the email is I'm not really sure I know anything about the project. So we would need to sit down with Banning, find out what their requirements are, basically for their software. I'm not even sure who wrote their software, but we need to decide which server to put it on here, and what impact that might have. I think they're going to have a lot of data because they're talking maps and photographs and stuff like that. So we got to be cognizant basically of that. Make sure that we don't overload the servers. Once we figure out which one we're going to put it on.
I would suggest we put it on the town server where you've got those virtual ports that you can have a virtual server. That's where I would recommend putting it.
Okay.
Because you don't want to put it on the Spillman, because then you're getting over into the PD's certifications of their files.
Right. So the not the problem, but I guess what we would be asking the council, they approve our time, project time, to work with Banning to do that.
What do you see this, is this an hour project? I know that.
I don't know. I wish I did.
Should we just have you get with them and get us an estimate of what you think?
Yeah, absolutely, I could do that. Yeah, Julie sent me all the contacts, so I could start there, get you a price. I think they're going to also have to interface with your web provider, because I think they want to be able to click on a website and bring up the map. So who is your web provider? See to it? Okay. So there might be some interface with them too, I don't know. So, but I think that's a good idea. I'll just get a proposal to you guys, and hopefully Banning will do most of the work if you paid them.
I think they were planning on it. I think they were just wanting,
Good. Okay.
and again, I apologize for the May invoice.
No
Paid you for
problem.
June. We're going to try to pay the even ones this year. So pay the odd ones next year. How's that?
Does your contract have late fees in it?
Yeah, the master agreement does. It's 1.5%.
Are you willing to waive those one time?
Sure, yeah, I'll do that.
I'd just like to know what happened. Did you send us the invoice? What happened with it? Did we get it and?
We received the invoice, it just
Okay.
apparently got
Okay.
lost in the process. I know that Steve and I have already spoken about how he can maybe tweak QuickBooks to where when he would have done his June invoice, that it would have rolled over as an arrears, and we would have caught it as soon as we received that invoice, because if there's an arrears on an invoice, Tammy kind of is proactive on those and tries to narrow it down.
When I look back, the last two actually have had the invoice numbers on them, but not the last, if you go back 3, they're not on there, so I'm not sure.
Invoice number on what?
On the check stub?
Oh, on the check stubs? Yes.
Exactly what those checks are for.
Yes.
If you send a check for 400, well, there might be 2 invoices for 200 and 200. We have to find them. So
Okay.
that's what I was coming up there for, sorry.
I spoke with Tammy on that earlier today, and I had answered that, because he had inquired about that. And what is happening is that we're paying, we get one invoice for, what is it, 3,000 and something? Well, we have to divide that out between each department pays a piece of that. So we got one check, but you get multiple invoice, so.
You can put all the invoices on there, on that one check.
Okay.
That was even better, so, yeah.
What I'd also like to see happen is if our department heads are gonna pull an invoice and they have a question about that, call the vendor. They did the work for them. I mean, when I'm calling them on a different project and I'm getting questioned on why they're not getting paid, I don't know anything about that. And it's a little embarrassing on my end. So if they could reach out, I mean, before they submit it into you and they can question it before they get it on the docket, that would probably be a lot better also.
Now, when Tammy received those, she was specifically told not to pay it, so that's why
Well, then
she
he
set it
needs to
aside.
call them and say,
Yeah.
hey, here's my question about this, not just go mute on it and nobody knows anything.
Nobody pulled the bill for the monthly charge in May, though. It just happened to be overlooked.
Right.
I thought that's what happened. I thought people were pulling everything.
No.
And based on, it just was a series of events that occurred in a row, it looks like.
Yeah.
If I'd known he was going to waive the late fee, though, we'd have pulled them all. Back to January.
No.
No.
Be nice.
So thank you very much, and
Okay.
we'll pull those 2 from the docket, but don't forget to resubmit. And notice I looked at Andy and not you. Don't forget to resubmit with maybe
Okay.
separation now.
Yeah, I'm gonna separate all that instead of putting it all.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great.
Shane, can you give the fire department?
Yes, Chief Dalton had a family emergency and just wanted What he was coming to let the council know was that he is going to have a new hire, and I guess he's spoken with the clerk's office, Debbie, to make sure that the funds are there. This is to replace their retiring captain, and so the captain's been paid out, to my understanding, what the fire chief said, and there are enough funds in the budget to go ahead with the process. Does that sound like what you were told? Okay. So he's just trying to let us know per...
I think it's a courtesy that,
Yeah.
he realizes that if he's replacing a full-time employee, that he really doesn't have to come in front of the town council, but he does as a courtesy. He would do that as a courtesy.
Right.
So, yes, he and Debbie have been crunching the numbers for a few days.
Okay. Thank you.
Legal counsel. Legal counsel,
Yes.
do you have anything for us?
No, I do not. Reading my emails.
Public comments. We have 2 signed up. Ed Robin, Rick.
There's still a department head in the
Oh,
back.
geez.
See,
Yeah, see,
you skipped ahead.
I skipped, I'm sorry.
You did.
I saw fire department.
You skipped ahead.
Department heads. Dave. Rob. Sorry, I apologize.
Don't have much. We too started a hiring process for a full-time dispatcher. We have hired that individual. We've told her that we're going to hire her. She needs 3-week notice, but she'll start in 3 weeks. We haven't had a 4th full-time in a while, so we've got plenty of money to pay her out the rest of the year when she starts. But then we'll be back with 4 full-time dispatchers, which is good.
Is that your full report?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, Brock, I had sent you a few questions this morning regarding the missing weapon at the PD, though it's been talked about in the public meeting a few times, but would you mind reading those questions and giving your answers? Do you have them in front of you?
You want me to read the questions?
Yeah, there's 4 questions.
Okay. Yes. Number 1, could you provide a timeline on the history of the missing weapon from when it was actually issued to when you discovered it? Yes. So to the best of my knowledge, Officer Hester was issued the firearm when we issued those guns. We bought those clocks in 2014. I would assume that's when he had it. He resigned from the Mooresville Police Department to go to IMPD in December 15th of 2018. Then the gun was placed in the gun safe, where it just waited until another officer could take possession of that firearm. It sat there. I see no other list where it was ever issued to anybody. Danny Allen was the chief at this time. Danny Allen retired on August 2nd, 2019. And then Kevin Julian took over as the chief January 13th, 2020. The gun still showed that it was in the gun safe. April 2020, Officer Miller was issued a firearm. May 22nd, 2020, so a month later, that firearm in question went missing. Because what happened was Officer Miller was issued that gun, the gun that Officer Hester had, on April of 2020. However, it happened that serial number on that firearm was entered incorrectly onto our serial number inventory list. So we added a gun and we lost a gun. We just never caught that we added a gun. We just assumed that the gun that Officer Miller had was a gun we've had this whole time. In reality, it was just, I am assuming, a typo, and because of that, Officer Miller had the missing gun from April of 2020 to June 24, 2022, when he turned in his equipment and I did his exit inventory list, and that's when we discovered the error. Any questions on that one, or continue?
What did you do? Did you actually run it in the system? Did you compare the serial number to an inventory sheet, or what did you do?
Yeah, so he gave me the gun. I had a list of all the guns that we were supposed to have. His gun ended in 99. The gun that I had for him ended in 00. I was confused, so then I checked the inventory list. It showed that he was supposed to have this gun that ended in 00, not this gun that ended in 99. I called Sergeant Inkhorn, who is kind of oversees the whole firearms, him and Kevin Julian. And he was like, I don't know why that would be. He was at a baseball game, totally get it. He's like, that gun does sound familiar. Check the in-house computer. I checked the in-house computer, and that was the missing gun that was stolen, or that was entered as stolen or missing. So then I looked and was like, okay, so it's been here this whole time. You've had it. He didn't know. Miller didn't know that he had it. It's not on him. He didn't know that he was possessing the missing firearm. It just was entered in wrong at some point while he had the gun. Number 2, did the circumstances surrounding the missing weapon have anything to do with the time frame of the Chief Allen administration or the PD move to the new location as reported in the police report filed on March 12th, 2021? So to the best that I could find, Chief Allen was the chief when the gun was in the safe after Chris Hester moved to IMPD, and then Chief Allen retired and the gun was still in the safe, and then the gun was issued to Officer Miller in April of 2020 when Kevin Julian was the chief. So it was moved over from the old police department to the new police department, and it looks like it stayed in the safe for about a year until it was issued in April when we issued it to Miller.
Okay, let me pause you there. The reason I asked that question, I think, is obvious, because there were people in this town and on social media going around and blaming it on the previous chief, Chief Allen. I had former officers go on my page and accuse other officers by first name that they had stolen this weapon, which was totally, completely false. And I think anyone who is, I had people, no offense, Josh, but I had people in the campaign. Josh Brown was one of them who came up and said, oh, it happened during the previous chief, because that's what was going around town, right? You asked me if it happened on campaign day. You asked me. People were asking, well, you asked me because people are going around saying it happened during the previous chief. It did not. And Danny Allen owed an apology. Go ahead.
Number 3, was the weapon inventory being accurately accounted for between 2020 and the time you became interim? Did you receive accurate records? The only issue with the inventory is the number was wrong. So, no, they weren't accurate. They showed Miller had a gun that ended in 500 when in fact he had a gun that ended in 599. Like I said, I think it was a typo. I have no idea what happened. We don't know what happened. The 9s are next to zeros in the keyboard, and I think it was a typo. But that was an error in the inventory whenever I got there. It's since been corrected.
Okay.
Which is number 4. What has been done to properly account for the issued weapons? Sergeant Inkhorn has gone through the inventory probably, honestly, like 15 times in 4 months. They've been updated and updated and updated. They are all in alphabetical order now. That whole room is very organized. Not to say it wasn't before, but it's very organized now. All of the firearms, pistols, shotguns, rifles, alphabetical or in numerical order, so they're easier to read. So if there was to be a typo, it would stand out because it wouldn't belong in that area. We've checked all of the weapons because we just had qualifying in June. He ran us all through the courses. Everybody had to check their weapon and write down the serial number. All of that matched. I feel confident with everything that's down there that it is where it's supposed to be and what it is supposed to be. And then we're finishing off the surplus of the old Glocks, and we've got, I want to say off the top of my head, 5 or 6 handguns left to sell out of that, and then we'll be done with all those firearms, and then we'll just have what we have now, the new 9mm, the shotguns and the rifles, and everything's organized and where it's supposed to be. Any questions? Good deal.
I thank you for finding the weapon, even though people said you didn't do anything to find it. It wasn't found for 2 years, and you found it. That's the facts.
Yeah, he brought it to me. I did the inventory. Whoever was in the inventory would have found it, but yeah, it was found. We didn't know where it was at. It was found.
And to say it was never missing, would you agree with that statement, that it was never missing?
I think I understand what people are saying, but we did not know where the firearm was at, yes. he had it the whole time, but we didn't know that. I mean, we know
The
that
state
now.
police were alerted that it was
Yeah, we had
stolen.
a case on it, state police had a case on it, but at the end of the day, it didn't shoot anybody, that's what we can
Right,
think.
I'm glad you found it, I really am. I appreciate you paying attention, even though it was a remedial task to some. I think you found it, so I give you credit and thank you.
Thank you.
Dave?
I already touched on it with Steve.
Thank you. Legal?
We have nothing.
Public comments? Alvin Rose.
Rob, do you want a microphone to sit down there? I can set one down there for you. Okay. All right.
If I fall, then it's on me. All right, so good evening. So again, Rob Samuels, 1297 Rosewood Lane, just in case you don't know. I'll begin by saying I really don't want to be here standing before this council tonight. And tonight I can say it pains me to do so, and it's not just an analogy. But after hearing Councilman Williams' comments from the July 5th council meeting, I had to attend tonight. During that meeting, Councilman Williams lied about statements I made, stating publicly that the requester made disparaging comments, that I stated the town was not responding, filing 5 public access counselor complaints, that's further tying up the town's time, and then claimed that I made disparaging remarks about Beth Copeland, asking the town to fire her. After hearing that, I immediately sent Beth Copeland an email, which most of you up here were included on. For those that weren't, that email stated verbatim, Shane Williams yet again lied. I never called for Beth Copeland to be fired. I said she is a contractor and as such should not respond to taxpayers in the way she has. So yet again, Shane Williams tries to use dramatic lies. Proof is in my comments from the past town council meeting. Please, anyone correct me if Shane Williams is correct and if I'm full of baloney, as a distinguished council member publicly stated. Not one person on that email chain corrected me. So then on Councilman Williams' Facebook page, he wrote the following. I'm not upset about the records request. I'm upset that they have disparaged the town and town attorneys acting as though they're not getting responses. They are literally accusing our attorneys of breaking the law now. The town has spent an enormous amount of time and money to respond to them. At no time have I disparaged the town attorneys. What I did say, and only so because of Shane Williams' attacks on social media, was the list of public records requests where I received no response from the town of Mooresville. After submitting the request, and I brought this up and mentioned this at the June 7th council meeting, the town has 7 days to respond. And I'm using that 7 days if it's by email. If it's in person, it's 24 hours. But I go by the 7 days to respond. And that was not done. The requester is only allowed 30 days to file a public access counselor complaint once the entity denies a request. And no response within that 7-day time period is considered a denial by the state of Indiana. And at no time have I said the town attorneys were breaking the law. You said that. You're the only one. Councilman Williams is the only one that has said that. On the complaints I did file with the public access counselor, which you state is further tying up the town's time, those were only filed because I received no response from the town. None. That is factual, and it's documented on the public access counselor complaint form with all pertinent information. So Councilman Williams can smear me all over social media with his lies, but the truth is the truth. And on those submitted complaints, there was never a response from the town. Not even a follow-up stating we are working on this, any time frame given, nothing. And these, I'm only referring to what I have filed the public access complaint against. Because I've had multiple that have been filled. I've got responses from Diana, from Tammy. Hey, we've received it, we're working on it. I'm not referring to every public access request. I'm referring to the 5 that were submitted into public access complaints. So, with public records requests, if the entity does not respond to the requester at all within a specified time period, then the request is automatically determined to be denied. And if Jewel was up here, I would ask him if that was correct. But that's exactly what what I'll call the rules of the law state. So for Councilman Williams to flat out lie to the public about what I said, stating that I asked the town to fire Beth Copeland, forced me to come here and correct that statement tonight. Unfortunately, nobody at this table corrected him when he made it last week, even though you knew he was lying. So it falls upon citizens to hold the elected accountable. To quote again from Councilman Williams' Facebook page, which he uses primarily to conduct town business but likes to block citizens he disagrees with, he writes, "I'm certainly not against public access requests, but when the requests are broad, they take more time to compile. Quite frankly, I rarely see that group share much of anything insofar as docs or records go anyways. Last meeting, they came in and read half a memo and pretended it verified what their story was. That's about the only time I've actually seen them reference a specific document lately. Most of the time, it's just their accusations and opinions, like when they accused me of throwing papers or called me demon-possessed. LOL. Public service requires reason, logic, reference to the law, Indiana code, and a spirit of helping the town, not simply smearing the people. Ironic, since every person up here has seen how Shane Williams smears fellow town council members, fellow town council employees, and the citizens of this town. On June 7th, I specifically addressed this council by beginning my address with, I come before this council tonight only because myself and others that have addressed this council during public comments have been accused of coming with no facts. You can watch that town council meeting, that's verbatim. That was my first statement I made, and yet we still see Councilman Williams manipulating facts and trying to paint citizens who speak during public comments as not having much of anything insofar as docs or records go. So I addressed you guys last week, the last council meeting I was at, not the June 5th or July 5th, but the prior, because I was waiting for documents. Now, since June 7th, I've received some documents that were requested, one of which pertained to the memo that Councilman Williams referenced on his Facebook comment. I've read that memo of understanding against Lieutenant Julian many, many times, and I stated at the meeting that it seemed like a retaliatory action occurring 3 months after this council removed him as chief. And then the public records received that totally validated what I stated. I'll read the full email that began the retaliatory process that resulted in that memo of understanding. This email is from Shane Williams, sent Friday, June 10th, 2022 to Christopher Hobbick, Jewel Lee, Charles Braun, Jeff Cook, and Brock Chipman. Notice it's not every member of the town council.
Be a violation of the law.
Subject, Patrolman Julian, and this is public comment, not councilman comment. Subject,
President, he's had his 5 minutes of
Julian.
allotted time. Give this point of order. We've dealt with this for many months. It's redundant. We know what he's going to say. We've lived through the meetings. We know what was said.
You don't know what I'm
Can we
gonna
move forward with
say.
this meeting?
You,
There's other people that are signed up to public speak. It's not fair to them as well.
up to you. I mean, if you want me to turn
We're
this
over 8
in.
minutes. He's had his time.
I have no idea what you're asking the council to do. Do you want me to resign? Is that what you're after? Because that's the only thing I
You know,
can say.
this is public comment. Julie has not allowed the council
What do you
to
want the
interact.
council to do?
President, point of order. Can we move forward with this meeting?
Seth, I've got a page and a half left. If you don't want me to read it, that's fine.
Just what do you want us to
I'm
do?
responding to what he stated in a meeting.
We don't, at this time, we do have, like you said, we have a past policy, but we've not enforced it yet. If we need to come up with a policy, that's fine. But legal counsel is saying,
I'll enforce it. Have a good night.
You can only call people a liar so many times, and evil and
This is public
corrupt.
comment, please.
It's the same thing every week. You're evil, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar. You can only do it so many times.
Shane,
Yes, sir.
we've stopped them when we're talking. We need to stop them while they're talking.
All right, go ahead.
So what I'm getting at is, and I'll condense this, I won't read the entire email.
Go ahead. You're here, read it.
Shane,
You know,
please. We're
Don't
gonna-
act
I'm
like
gonna
you're
stop
his
them.
friend, come on.
that's the stuff I'm talking about, denigrating other council members during a meeting. So the email begins, after hearing Rose Julian vehemently defend her husband in a public meeting Tuesday, I have strong concerns that Kevin Julian believes he's currently attended. Yet he refuses to attend supervisor meetings. All of this I'm reading is because I've been accused of having no facts and presenting false information. I stated this. I got the information through public access request. Beth Copeland sent me this. So I'm coming before this council and the public with that information I got. To begin with, that entire email from Shane Williams is just a petty retaliatory action because Rose Julian corrected Jeff Cook and stated that her husband was still a lieutenant. I've read that MOU, and I'll ask Charles Braun on Thursday about it, since he was part reading who wrote it. I've read that MOU multiple times. At no times does it say that Kevin Julian was not a lieutenant. It says he was removed and had his prior rank and pay, and that he'd be working, and I was listening to the meeting, that he'd be working as a patrol officer. He's not a supervising lieutenant. So why Shane Williams wants to state that Kevin Julian refuses to attend supervising meetings when he was not a supervisor? Publicly, he states that. That's ludicrous. States that in this email. And questions me as to who Mr. Williams is getting his information from. Also in here, in that email that started this retaliatory action, Council Member Williams states that he's concerned that given Kevin's recent public comments at a police commission meeting expressing his desire to remain a patrolman at lieutenant pay, that he's concerned he's playing games in order to set the town up for future lawsuit. I've watched the police commission meetings. Kevin Julian never said he wanted to remain a lieutenant at a patrolman at lieutenant pay. He never said that. It's a flat out lie. Yet it's put in this email to try to justify retaliatory actions because Mrs. Julian spoke up for her husband. I find that pathetic. I find that petty. Also, at this point, it's flat out harassment of a town employee. I'm in business. I have employees. We have processes. We have procedures. Any business sees attacks and retaliations against an employee would never be tolerated. And the harasser, no matter what their level, from chairman of the board to CEO and every level down, would be immediately terminated. Otherwise, the company would be highly liable for a discrimination lawsuit, for harassment lawsuits. So it amazes me how one council member can blatantly, publicly, and openly harass and attack town employees with no recourse whatsoever. As a town employee, you can be harassed by a council member over and over and over. You all have seen it. You've witnessed it. We've seen town employees cry because of a council member. Council member thinks that's funny, but we've seen that. In any business, that would not be allowed to happen. I've also received formal complaints written and submitted by police department supervisors who were in attendance at the meetings where Brock Chipman told everyone after receiving an email from the town attorney that the documents requested on a public records request had to be turned over, and that he would rather Tom Brady his phone than turn over the legally requested information. I was called a liar about that. I would have no information what was said in a supervisor meeting. It's documented. It was turned over with public access requests. I have the information that Beth supplied, and yet Shane Williams chose to attack me and make it appear I knew nothing. When I brought that to this council, when I brought it to the police commission, to go even further, in his attempt to protect Officer Chipman, Shane Williams presented it on social media as if it were a joke and there was nothing to it. Well, it's apparent that trained law enforcement supervisors knew that Officer Chipman was not joking and went to the point of filing complaints about the situation. So hopefully Mr. Williams will stop lying about that situation, because if he thinks it is a joke about a person who's now interim police chief saying he will Tom Brady his phone before turning over legally requested information, then Mr. Williams needs to stop playing the victim about someone joking and asking him if he was possessed. The list of lies is long, and if I were to go through all of them, then one person's supporter would attack me more. But I don't care. Look at me. Do you think I'm afraid of being attacked on social media? Doesn't bother me one bit. I'm just lucky I'm even freaking standing up here today. So to me, the BS is just that. The only reason I'm up here today is because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of lies. I'm tired of attacks. I'm tired of seeing good people in this town being torn apart by some vindictiveness, pettiness, and some little ego that can't stand that someone's spouse would dare to stand up here and correct someone. I have absolutely nothing to lose. I have no skin in the game. I do not know the Julians personally before this happened, but the day I got home from the hospital, do you know who called and said, "We're bringing you dinner"? It was Kevin and Rose Julian, because that's the kind of people they are. That's the kind of people Mooresville needs, not this stuff that we witness. If I were an employee of this town, I would immediately sue the town over the words and actions of Shane Williams, as he has been harassing town employees. I presented the information. Anyone on social media can see it. He's harassing their families, and he creates a hostile environment for employees. He attacks and harasses citizens as well, and tries to create a situation where people are afraid to come speak before this council out of fear of retaliation. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten messages from business owners that say they can't speak before you guys because they're afraid that there will be retaliation. It is pathetic, and since nobody on this council can do anything about the lies and attacks, it falls upon citizens to continue to hold elected officials accountable for their words and their actions. Now, I support every single council member up here who truly puts Mooresville first in their words and the actions. I do not support those who put their egos first and then try to pass it off as Mooresville first. I'll never support anyone that puts their ego first above all else. Meanness, spiteness, vindictiveness, nastiness, lies, attacks. None of that should be tolerated on a town council. None of that should be tolerated by any town council member. Now, I'm now beginning to get requested information from Taft, and I do appreciate that. I've never once said, hey, Taft is holding it up. I see what Taft is dealing with and Beth is dealing with. I also appreciate the change in the tone in the emails that I've received from Beth, as I've never had a confrontational relationship with anyone at Taft, contrary to what one council member wants to say and paint. I would highly suggest, this council look at ways that public records requests can be handled maybe differently to improve the process. Some of that I saw that Joel brought up in the last meeting. But I do understand that this is only a recent issue that arose due to one council member making statements on social media, one council member attacking employees, and providing questionable or partial information while then turning around and encouraging people to file public records requests. Now, as to the cost, you can thank Mr. Williams for the cost. For without his antics, tantrums, attacks, and lies, the town would not be where it is now because there would not be the number of public records requests. The people of Mooresville deserve better. And I can only hope that members elected to this council will not sit idly and quietly by as another member lies and outright attacks and harasses town employees, the employees of the town, and their families. Now, I'm going to go and wait for the victim post to start appearing. So have a great rest of the night, and I do apologize to one member's handful of supporters that I spoke this long and that it was confrontational, but I do believe in the right to address our government and to hold elected and appointed officials accountable. So thank you all.
Rose, that's a tough act to follow. It's a tough act to follow.
Thank you. I didn't know what I was going to say tonight, but I have my own little thing that I was going to say. I'm Rose Julian, my husband, former chief of Mooresville, now a lieutenant with the police department, Kevin Julian. I'm speaking tonight because I believe in transparency, even when that means owning up to what I say, being incorrect, and explaining why I was wrong. At the last town council meeting that I spoke at, I believed it was June 21st, I said that Kev provided the confirmation number for the ammo that was ordered. It was actually a confirmation email. This was my misunderstanding. Furthermore, I stated that Brock, interim chief Shipman, didn't notify him of needing to reschedule a meeting that they had scheduled. This was not the case. During the first attempt to meet up, it was learned that Kev learned that Brock had changed his hours and was coming in later than the 7 a.m. normal time. Kev chalked this up to miscommunication and misunderstanding. There was a cancellation notice that I later learned about on like a third attempt or a second attempt. I can't tell you verbatim of what that was, but I do know that there was a later attempt to meet and it was canceled. The only reason I was aware of this meeting was Kev had notified me that he was going to be staying over prior to his normal time, but he did get home at the normal time. And I asked him why he was home already. Kev said because Brock has changed his hours. I asked him, so he didn't even tell you? The answer was no. I then asked if he tried to reschedule prior to today. Kev said no. Again, Kev chalked this up to misunderstanding. Kev was heading into work at the expected time and home at the normal expected time. So I was under the influence that there was only time they would get together would be at those other times that would be before or after. So it was my misunderstanding. And because I don't talk to Kev about what I'm saying here or ask him questions about what's going on with the PD, because he's not my source. I have plenty of other sources within the police department as well as around town. I didn't ask him to talk to him about it to get correct information. Kev quickly did correct me when I got home that evening. So for this, I was wrong, and I'll apologize to Brock for saying that he did never let him know. Kev remains quiet regarding what's happening in the police department and in the town council. He's humble, and he just wants to move on. Whereas I believe speaking out on what has transpired, the falsehoods, half-truths being put out there, was vital. We see this differently, so we just don't talk about the department, town council, or the police commission. The following are the exceptions, though. Kev corrected me, as I previously stated. Kev telling me when he got the memo regarding him not being able to wear or display his merit rank of lieutenant. Kev letting me know when Randy Rogers was having his shindig at the PD, since Randy was leaving the PD and taking a position within Morgan County. I also want to just clarify that I had made the statement that Chris Hovick said he didn't know. I just want to clarify that I was referring to him indicating he didn't know Kev was wearing his rank, not that he didn't know about the memo. He was aware of the memo as he signed it. But he should have known about Kev wearing the rank, considering he was asked to the whole police commission about wearing the rank after his demotion. Again, I feel it's important to be transparent, even openly stating my incorrect information that I presented here this evening, because the town deserves to know the truth. This was my error and mine alone. The rest of what I've spoken at town council meetings is the truth, so I stand by it. Because of the retaliation that Kev has endured and the potential for more, I don't plan to speak again. I will follow my husband's lead, being silent and lifting up the matter to God and letting God direct our path. That's it.
No one else signed up. Is there any other public comment?
Hello. I believe most of you know me, but for those that don't, I'm David Schultz. I was a former shift sergeant with the police department. Not here to braid anybody, tear anybody down, or have anything negative really to say. I wish that Councilman Cook was still here, because I would have addressed him. Since he's not, I'll do it anyway, because I believe that we're still streaming on Facebook and possibly on YouTube. I would have started with saying thank you. I had a fantastic 14-and-a-half-year career here. Blood, sweat, and tears. All of it. I'll speak to him even though he's not here. Jeff, I really appreciated the things that you taught me, especially regarding patience and dealing with people as if they're human beings and not just pieces of trash all the time. I tried very hard to pass that along to probably 90% now of the remaining force that's with Mooresville that I helped either train through FTO or just leading by example and by my experiences. Councilman Williams, you and I have only spoken briefly regarding K-9. I don't do Facebook. If you notice, never once have you seen my name come across your Facebook page, any of them. I don't have fake profiles. I don't deal in any of that. I stay off of Facebook for the very reason that I feel like it breeds hate and it stirs so much dissension, and that's not what I'm about. That's not my character. My moral compass points north, which is that direction. The reasons I left the town are my own. It doesn't have anything to do with anything other than my own reasons. I don't need to state any more than that. Nobody speaks for me. I speak for myself. I can stand here on my own 2 feet today and tell you that if I had something to say to you, I would have said it myself. I would appreciate if you would please stop bringing me into it, bringing my wife into it, or anybody else in my family into anything that has to do with social media or Facebook regarding the town or anything else. I understand the lawsuits. I'm part of them. I understand a lot of the stuff that's going on. I was there. Had to live it, had to breathe it, still have the scars on my arm from the burns. I really don't need reminded of what I went through on February 27th or April 25th or any of the other times that I bled for this town. Okay. Mr. Sweeney, don't think you and I have ever exchanged words. Same for Mr. Stanley. I don't know that you and I have ever really spoken face to face. Ms. Copeland, same thing. Tommy, you and I have spoken very, very rarely. I mostly here at this podium, and it was very brief. I don't know that you and I have ever had a conversation outside of this room, honestly. Regardless, I wanted to thank all of you for the time that I got to spend here. And the same for the citizens of the town, the officers, Mr. Hobick, everybody here. I wanted to say thank you for that. I don't know if you can help me with this. I'm still missing a pay stub.
Not a paycheck, but a
A
stub.
pay stub, yes. All of my pay has been accounted for. It was an error on my part when I was trying to find all the hours and making sure I had everything lined up. I didn't have a pay stub to compare it to. So I sent an email to Mr. Hobick and you, and I think probably 2 or 3 other people, saying that I was missing hours that I wasn't missing. And I was able to do that just by going through a calendar and trying to figure out the pay periods. I'm missing the second to last pay stub that I had. So if you don't mind mailing that to me, or if you want to send it to my personal email, I can give that to you. It doesn't make a difference to me, just as long as I get it from my own records. Does anybody here have any questions for me? Anybody at all? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, one last thing. I had something I wanted to read off real quick, just because it kind of struck me as being extremely pertinent, and it's a quote. This is a quote by Adam Grant. He's an author. Leaders who refuse to hear criticism and choose not to learn. The higher you climb, the more people hesitate to challenge you. Silencing dissent is a step toward becoming a dictator. A culture of voice begins in admitting gaps in your knowledge and rewarding those who speak up. Being humble is always, in my opinion, one of the best things that you can do. So, thank you very much.
Any other comments? Need a motion for approval of payment of claims. There is a...
Yep, I got it. Make a motion, we approve claims in the amount of $946,824.51. This does account for some of the invoices that were pulled tonight.
Say it again, 946.
946-82451.
Does that correct the issue that was presented to us this afternoon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's scribble mark, sorry.
Plus, okay,
Yeah. Plus, minus, all that.
okay,
Even the ones, sorry, I was doodling over here.
right. Nobody seconded, correct?
Motion made.
I'll second.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Dustin Shane, 4-0. Town council comments.
First off, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what was said because I think it ignores all of what is being said and done on social media, including the fact that your wife tags me all the time. I'm not tagging her. People are on there tagging me every 5 minutes. I mean, so I don't know. But I would like to say that at the last meeting, Mr. Samuels, and I'll quote it, regarding Taft Law and our attorney, said, given responses such as the town considers this matter closed as the only response to a taxpayer who lives in Mooresville is both curt and rude. Later he went to say, I'm a taxpayer, I want the town protected, as do I. Please don't have a contractor talking curt and rude to a taxpayer like that. I heard him say, please don't have a contractor who talks curt and rude. And his definition of curtness and rudeness was that she said the town considers this matter closed, which to me is normal business language, common. An attorney would probably use language like that all the time. I subsequently texted Beth and said, how many times have you emailed this gentleman? And she's figured 36 times that she's emailed Mr. Samuels. So when I heard him say that this was the only response to a taxpayer, I thought, I know that's not true. On the issue of transparency, I'm live streaming the meeting, so everybody that's on my social media sees all the nasty comments about me. No one else does that. It's okay. No one else does that. And as far as the retaliation,
Is this on the agenda?
yes, this is town council comments. This is my time.
All right, okay.
Yeah. So I think, the idea that this council doesn't allow comments, quite frankly, in the last 6 months, we've had an enormous amount of comments from the same people who accuse us of not, like, retaliating. I don't really get that, considering they're allowed to come and speak and say whatever they want all the time. They do it on social media, they do it here. They're getting a lot of help from the town with public access requests. So yeah, I take offense when someone says the town doesn't take public access seriously. There are social media posts regarding the town attorney not following the law, or the town not following the law, which is the town attorney in this case. They're out there. But once you come in and call people corrupt, evil, and whatever else, it doesn't really matter what else you say, because those people are worthless at that point. So I try not to do that. I mean, heck, I was called corrupt to the Mooresville Times when I hired Kevin Julian by the Libertarian Party chair there. He called me corrupt then on the front page of the paper, and I didn't do anything. He can come in and say what he wants. He's here tonight. He can do whatever he wants. People will call you corrupt for doing anything. So anyway, I'll let it go at that. But as far as the retaliation, though, I want to say one thing. It's never retaliation to ask someone to follow the rules and the law. Okay? For example, with the memo to Kevin Julian, I found out that he was wearing lieutenant badges, meaning we had 2 lieutenants on the same shift. That's not fair to the public. Chris Hobbick, you have a meeting Thursday, correct? On your agenda, it says, new lieutenant. You're going to, is that Kevin Julian? Why do you, if he's not been acting as a patrolman, because he's a patrolman, because of the rank, was not available, a lieutenant space wasn't available, it wasn't retaliation, it's the law, it's Indiana code. He is acting at the rank of patrolman, even right this moment, until Thursday, when you bestow the rank of lieutenant on him, assuming you vote for it, correct?
Shane, we shouldn't be discussing back and forth between.
Okay, all right.
It's just a comment session.
Okay, well, it's on the agenda for a reason. Let's put it that way. So, everybody interrupts me. That's okay. I'll quit. But the idea of following the rules, asking someone to follow the rules and protect the town is not retaliation. It's simply doing what makes sense and protecting the town. From civil liability, by the way, which is a real thing. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but it's a real thing. Okay, I'm through.
Looking forward to seeing Rachel Gray get her day.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's my only comment.
Yes.
Good
Dustin?
comment.
Officer Schultz, be safe. You know, don't know the reason, don't want to. Be safe out there. That's it.
You know, Mooresville's still, in my opinion, the greatest place in the world to live. Our next council meeting will be Tuesday, August 2nd. We'll have it here, 6:30 p.m. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dustin, Greg, 4-0.
No. They're asleep right now. Yeah.
No, this is, she just turned 3 over the weekend, so her name's Adeline. That's my mini. That is the person behind her. That's
That's Mom's girl, so. Princess
When they
Island.
took this building down, I live on West Washington.
The traffic's gonna blast past your house.
Yep, we got one of them, my granddaughter.
Nothing we can do. I mean,
Okay.
we gotta get that down. What we'll do